Hi, so I thought if I've recorded a load of videos showing you how to find loads and loads of articles when you're trying to do your work, it might be a good idea if I also gave you a bit of guidance about some different ways that you can read more effectively. So these are some digital tools that you can use to increase your reading speed and also make it not as arduous an experience. Now, there's two different main sorts of reading technology that you can use, some of which are browser based and some of which are PDF based. So, first of all, I'm going to show you the browser ones. Now, I'm using the Chrome browser, and these are the plugins that are available for this. But there are other plugins on other browsers, such as Edge and Firefox, that do very similar jobs. So the first thing that I want to show you is around reading websites. So I've got a website here, it's an article on The Guardian, and there's a few problems when I'm trying to read this article. So for a start, I've got great big banner ads that are really hard to get rid of. There are these enormous images in between bits of text. The text itself is in two different shades of sort of grey, and it's also got serifs in it, which is quite difficult to read sometimes. And as I'm going through this, I've also got advertisements that are moving around, other articles to read, flashing stuff that's all trying to draw my attention away from the actual text here. So this is going to be quite difficult to read and to actually focus on. So there's a few different things that we can do to improve the reading experience of this using plugins. So the first one that I would recommend doing is you can download this one, which is High Contrast. And what High Contrast does is it gives you the option of changing the color scheme on the website. So normally websites are written with black text on a white background. Now that's fine when you're just reading the odd thing, but after a few articles that you've read, then that can be quite difficult for the eyes, so it can cause eye strain. So what you can do is increase the contrast, and that sharpens everything up, so the blacks are blacker, the whites are whiter. You can also change it to grayscale, and then that takes out the colour, which makes it a bit easier on the eyes. And you can, and what's useful for some people, particularly around people with dyslexia, is you can invert the colours so it's a black background with white text on it. And for some people, yellow on black works better than white on black or black on white. I'm going to leave it as normal for now, but that's one of the plugins that you can use. The second plugin that I want to show you is this one, which is called Reader View. And what Reader View does is it removes everything except the text. So if I click and show you this one, that removes all the ads. It removes the images, but I can toggle images on and off. So I can get rid of them if I don't want them there. And it also gives me a really easy option to do the printing, and I can change the text size. And I mentioned those serifs before. I can either get rid of them or I can have them. So generally speaking, sans serif, so without those little bits that stick out, tends to be easier to read. You can also change the color tone. So at the moment it's on light. I can have a dark background, or a sepia tone where it's a sort of off-white, tends to be a lot easier on the eyes to read. So that's another option that you can do just to improve your reading. If you want to get something read out to you, there are loads of different plugins that you can use now, and lots of websites have it already inbuilt. But you can get something like Read Aloud, which takes the text and reads it to you. Once you've got it on there, you can also slow down the speed, you can increase the volume, you can change the accents to one that you might feel more comfortable with. Generally speaking, the quality of those read aloud options has improved massively over even the last couple of years, so that's really effective. The last one that I want to show you is a plugin called Spreed. And Spreed is really designed for training you to do speed reading, but can be quite useful to really focus when you've got to do a close reading of something. So if you've got this plugin installed, you select it from your browser bar and then you select Spreed, the website. Okay, so Spreed is loaded now, and what Spreed does is it only displays a certain number of words from the website at a time, and I can select how many or how few I want it to do. So I can do up to 6 words at a time, or I can reduce that to maybe 3 or 4 words, and it will only display those at that one time. You can increase or decrease the speed. So if I want to make it fairly slow, it will then display those 3 words and then move on to the next ones. And if I feel like that's too slow, I can then speed that up so it goes much quicker. You can also change the font size, so this is quite a big font, but I can reduce that down. And it will then run through the whole article, just displaying that number of words at a time. So this is quite good if you want to do incredibly focused reading. And one of the nice things is it leaves both hands free for any note taking. It's certainly not for everybody, but for some people, it's a really effective way of making their reading really focused in. So that was techniques for reading a website. Now I've done it with a Guardian article, but lots of journal articles that you're likely to find, like this one here, is also a web-based. So it's not a PDF. This is written in what's called HTML. So the full text of the article is on the site here, but I can do the same thing with this. I can change the contrast, I can put it in read mode, I can get it to read out loud, and I can spread it if I want to, just display a few words at a time. So those are the ones that you can use for using anything that's website based, but most articles that you're likely to find will be like this one, where it's a PDF. So the text is stored as a separate file. Now, most of the time when you've got an article, it will look like this. So this is one that's from an EBSCO database, and it will display the article down like this. Now this is a bit problematic to start with. The text is quite small, and I've got all of this frame using up a huge amount of my screen, which could be used for reading space. From here, of course, what I could do is print off the article, but I'm going to get through a lot of printing, and it's not very environmentally friendly to be printing off every article that you read. So what I would do is download it first of all. So if I download that article and then open it up, at least now I've got rid of that frame around the edge, and I can zoom in closer onto the article so that I've got more reading space. But generally speaking, reading a PDF in a browser window like this, which is pretty much the default setting on every computer, is a bit problematic. There's not a lot of stuff that I can do with it from here. There's no added features. So what is a good idea if you want to really get the most out of your reading experience is to download a copy of it, and then rather than opening it up straight away and then it'll open up in your browser, use a specific PDF reader, such as I'm going to be using Adobe Acrobat. Now Adobe Acrobat takes a little bit longer for it to load up, but you get lots more options in actually using in your reading. So if I just zoom out so you can see the article a bit better. So here's my article, so it's the same thing. And from here I can start making changes to how this article appears. Now there's a few things that we've picked out before. We've got a white background and black text. That's not great on the eyes, particularly if you're having to do a lot of reading. So if I go to edit and then preferences, I can start making changes to this. So I can say I want to replace the document colors. I can use high contrast, and then I've got a selection of green text on black, yellow text on black, white text on black, or black text on white. So you can pick the one which works best for your reading. Personally, I like to have an off-white background color, so I would select custom color, and then I like a very, very light yellow with black text. And if I press OK to that, I've now got that off-white and I've got black text when I come to do my reading. Now there are still some issues with reading this that I don't like. So for example, it's in columns at the moment. So I need to read, once I get onto a page like this, I'm trying to read this column, but I've got all of this extra text. What I can do is zoom in to the point where I've only got the bit of text that I'm reading, but it's now a little bit awkward because I've got it zoomed into a nice size, but now I need to go down to the bottom, and once I get to the end of there, I'm having to go across, back up, and then down again, and then across, and when I get to a diagram, I'm having to zoom out. And then when I get past the diagram, zoom back in. So there's lots of movement around there, which is going to take away from my focus on the reading. One of the really good things that you can do when you're using Adobe Acrobat to do your reading instead is you've got this option called Reflow. So it comes under View, Zoom, and Reflow. And what that does is it removes columns so that everything appears now in one long column rather than in two separate ones per page. So it's now much easier to read because I'm only scrolling down to get through the text. What you can also do with Reflow is every time you zoom in, it will resize the text in order to fit in the size window that you've got. So rather than cutting stuff off if I zoom in too close, it will resize everything and have fewer words per line. So if you wanted to, you could zoom in really close and only have small amounts of text at a time. When you combine this with an option like auto scroll, which comes under View, Page Display, auto scroll, you can then zoom it in so you've only got a small amount of text appearing at a time, and it gradually scrolls through the whole page. And if you press the down key, it will go faster, and the up key will slow it down. So you can pick a size where you've only got the text that you're reading at any time appearing, have it at a speed that you can comfortably read through it, and you've also got two hands-free so that you can make your notes on separate note paper or on a separate screen if you need to. So it's a much more effective way of going through it. You've also got built into Adobe Acrobat, just zoom out a little, you have also got read out loud mode, so you can switch that on and you can combine that with the reflow and the auto scroll so that you're not only seeing the words appear, but you've also got it zoomed in on one sentence at a time and being read out loud to you, and you've got your hands free to make any notes. So it can be much more effective when it comes to actually reading the article. So those are my tips for how to read more efficiently and more effectively. It's worth saying with this reflow and with the reader view that you do need to take care for your referencing, that you have the accurate page number of everything and the accurate URL in your references, just to make sure it's going to the right place. Particularly with that reflow, some things might appear on a different page now than they were originally. So make a note and then switch off the reflow mode in order to get the accurate page number for your references. If you've got any queries about this or you want to know any more, do feel free to contact me. There are a few other reading tips that I can share with you as well, and I'm happy to do that. Thanks.